We are continuing to sort of build toward the American Revolution. We're inching our way closer. Based on previous topics that we talked about, we know that the British, English/British, are treating the colonies as a fly in the web. We're going to suck your blood. I want to suck your blood for the benefit of Mother England, and that the colonists are increasingly not liking that very much. We also now know that some wars have occurred in the colonies, and that increasingly the colonists are sort of viewing the English/British as not doing very much to protect them from hostile Native Americans. How come you're not protecting us more? And increasingly, the we-they relationship is increasing. Let's continue on that theme. I bet no one's ever heard of this feller. Am I wrong? Peter Zenger? No one's ever heard of this guy. Okay, well, here's a painting of his trial. And what he did was pretty interesting. And today, it happens all the time. And the reason it happens all the time today is because partly he did it. He did it, and people back then were like, what? What? You? And so now we're like, well, yeah, Zengered. You were Zengered. And what'd he do? He criticized the governor.
He died.
Did he die? Yes, he is dead.
Well, no.
You mean because of it?
Yeah.
No. Okay. Now, why is that not a big deal today? What do we have in place today that would allow anybody to criticize a governor, a mayor, a president? Yes? First Amendment, right? We have the First Amendment today that guarantees, well, which two particular things exist in the First Amendment that would lead you to conclude, so we criticize the governor, big deal. That's allowed because of, yes?
Freedom of speech, freedom of press.
Very good, right? You can say what you think, and you can publish it, your opinions. That's exactly what this guy did. So it says here, oh no, it should say here, there we go. So he was an editor of a newspaper, and he was highly critical of a governor. Frankly, I don't know which colony we're talking about here. I don't know the answer, sorry. And the governor sued him based on this thing called libel. Anyone know what that means? What's libel? If the New Richmond News came out with a scathing article about Taylor Paulson and how sucky of a volleyball player she is, and as a result, she's a sucky person, Taylor could sue the New Richmond News for libel. She could say, because of your criticism, now I'm not going to get into that college I always wanted to get into because the college will read about how awful a person I am. And as a result, I will not become the person I always wanted to be. I always wanted to be, I don't know, teacher, whatever. And you screwed it up for me. You have caused economic damage in my future because of what you said. That's libel. And so the governor sued this guy for libel. Here's the problem. When asked, the governor said, well, yeah, what he's saying is true, but it's still offensive. It still hurts my feelings. It's true, but it's still damaging to me. It's true, but it's still damaging to me. His lawyer was a guy by the name of Alexander Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton. Have we heard that name? Have we seen the play? Oh my gosh. I saw it this summer. Really good. Really, really good. Except for the annoying woman who kept sitting right in front of me, just kept shifting her head. It bugged the crap out of me. But there's nothing I do, so I had to overcome that little hurdle. But anyway, Alexander Hamilton. Who laughed? You're my favorite. Successfully argued that Zenger had the right to publish damaging but true information about the governor. And today we would be like, well, yeah, of course a newspaper should be able to print damaging but true information. But back then it was, what? What? Are you nuts? But today is like, well, yeah. All right. Zenger. Peter Zenger. How about that? Great. My little thing here doesn't seem to work. Does it work now? No. Okay, chart. You're creating a chart. There were 13 colonies. And so what I'm going to do is create here 3 types of colonies. All 13 could fit into one of 3 categories. They were either royal colonies, proprietary colonies, or charter colonies based on religion. Okay. Anyone want to take a shot here? What's a royal colony? What does that mean? Yeah, it's the U shell. Yes, thank you, Ian.
It was controlled by the British royalty.
Yeah, that's right. The king is the one in charge, or the monarch. Very good. How about a proprietary colony? What's that? And don't tell me, well, it's when the proprietor's in charge. Well, yeah. That tells me nothing. That's like when I ask, well, what's running? And you raise your hand. Well, that's when you run. Uh-huh. Do we not know what a proprietor is? Oh, maybe we don't know what that term means. What's a proprietor? A proprietor? I bet some of you have parents who are proprietors. No! And I mean that in a good way. You bring us down a whole octave in a good way. Okay, fine. What's a proprietor?
If someone like owns the property, like it's like if you're renting a house.
That's true. That is a
don't
proprietor.
own it,
Yeah, yeah.
but the
Yeah.
proprietor does.
Right? The owner. I don't get it. I don't understand. Can anyone help me? A proprietary colony. What? What?
Oh,
It's run by the owner.
Well, yeah.
is it the one with the company?
Very good. All right. These are company colonies, right? They're company colonies. The tobacco company in London paid for the crossing of the Atlantic of the indentured servants and is paying for the housing, right? It's a business. It's Walmart land. That's an example. And then there's charter or religious. This one seems obvious, but humor me. Someone else. Come on now. It's not him or him, and she's out of the picture too. Someone else. How about birthday girl? Okay, fine. Sure.
Like if they wanted to like separate from the church, or like it was a newer religion, they wanted like their own place. So
Great. Perfect, right? It's when they started a colony because their religious beliefs were oppressed wherever they used to be, and so they're now going to go somewhere where they get to oppress people. Okay, so here are your different type of executive components. What this is who's the one in charge? Who's the chief executive? And now to make this confusing for you, don't assume that royal had this type of legislative and proprietary had this kind and charter had that kind. That might be true, but it's not necessarily true. All 3 colonies had different types of legislatures, entities that created laws. And there were 3 types: an upper house, a lower house, and then it says an upper house again. So this is an upper house, only the people in the upper house were appointed. Are you off task?
No.
I think you are, because not only are you looking at your computer screen, but others around you are too. Fix it. Whatever it is, fix it. Anyway, so people in this legislative body were appointed. Appointed by who? These people. These people in the upper house were appointed by the executive. There's this thing called a lower house. How were you elected? How are you chosen to be in the lower house? Well, you were elected by people who owned property. Property required. And then there's another type of upper house where you were also elected. What would be useful is if I had a series of arrows going from each one of these colonies down to the type of legislative body that they each had, and there it is. You're welcome. So I would be able to, in a test, say, all right, what type of legislative entities did a royal colony have? And you would say, well, what would you say? It had an upper house. But which type of upper house? Very good. And keep going. Sorry. What other type of legislative entity did? Lower house. Okay. Right. You see, a royal colony had an upper house where the people in the upper house were appointed by the king. It had a lower house where the people were elected by people who owned property in the colonies. Proprietary colony also had an upper house appointed by the proprietor, a lower house of people who were elected. And then the religious colonies had an upper house, but they were elected, and a lower house also elected. Do you follow this logic of this brilliant chart that I spent minutes making? Minutes. All right. Synthesize here. What do we have today that you could look and say, oh, well, that's kind of like this. Does the United States have an upper and a lower house? We do, actually. What are they called? Sorry? House of Representatives and the Senate. Very good. The Senate has how many people per state? 2 per state. It's considered the upper house. House of Representatives, how many people per state? Depends, right? At least 1. I'm looking at you, Wyoming. And up to 53, California, right? Or anywhere in between, based on population. For the most part, based on population. Okay. Any questions here? 1 slide left. So let's start looking at some of the immediate steps that would ultimately lead to the American Declaration of Independence. We now travel to Europe. And this is Europe if it were painted by religion. You'll notice that France is yellow, and so is something called the Spagni and Italy. This map is actually a map not in English, but I like it because of the color. I have chosen poorly previous maps. Remember that my all-time favorite map is the one of red and then slightly not red. And it's like, okay, this one's got real colors, so I like it. And so we're going to have to overcome that little hurdle of whatever language that is. But I bet you can figure out what country that one is, the one with this thing called Romy. And I bet you know what country that is. And I bet you know what sea this is. It says Mediterranean. I bet you can figure this stuff out. Plus, it's in kilometers. America, miles. But we're going to overcome that hurdle. Okay? The point I want you to see is France is yellow. And so is the Spagni, and so is this Italy, and a bunch of Central Europe, and then something called Pologn, that's Poland. Okay, and then Irlandi, that's Ireland. Okay, you can see that England is a different color. They're Anglican, that shouldn't surprise you. Europe was in the midst of these religious-based wars. The Pope does not like the fact that these other entities are breaking away, and so he's going to send his 2 attack dogs. Spain and Portugal, they're the 2 main attack dogs, and they fail. Remember, Spain attacked England and got wiped out by a storm, and so as Spain is fading, France is the new Catholicville. It's the new top dog Catholicville, led by a guy by the name of Louis. His name is Louis the 14th. I am Louis. Why do you think I have this outrageous accent? King Louis, he's going to be a player. He's going to be somebody. And so Louis looks at this map of North America, and he sees that, yeah, the French can claim a lot of land, but there just aren't very many French out here. There's some fur traders, some people who hunt. And they got beards down to here, and there's a few of them. But the English had more people in that spot than the French had in their entire territory. And Louis wanted to change that. He wanted a new France. In fact, that's what they called it, New France. Later on, they changed it to Louisiana. That's the guy. That's the guy they named it after. Louisiana, named after Louis XIV. Okay. Do we know Roman numerals? Why is that 14?
So there's 10 and then 1 before.
Yeah, isn't that strange? What? Yeah, 10 and then 1. Okay. What the French figured out was that there was this Native American tribe called the Huron. And the Huron had a tribal enemy, the Iroquois. The Huron hated the Iroquois. The Iroquois had a trade alliance with the British. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Enemy of my enemy is my friend. You know who hates the British? In this case, the French. The French. The French have a rivalry with Britain, and so what they do is they say, all right, we hate Britain, the Iroquois like Britain, so therefore we hate the Iroquois. The Huron hate the Iroquois, therefore we like the Iroquois. Now notice it's not because, gee, the Iroquois are swell. No, it's just because, well, who are their enemies? And so the French create an alliance with this group of people called the Huron. We now have a military alliance. The French ally themselves with this group of people called the Huron because the Huron opposed the Iroquois and the French opposed the British. So here seems to be the teams for a war which will occur soon. Not the Revolutionary War, the war before the Revolutionary War, the war that caused the Revolutionary War. Because, of course, there's a fifth element here that is not even being introduced here. I now know what the French are, and I know what the British are, and I know what the Huron are, and I know what the Iroquois are. You know who I don't know are? It's the colonists. Very good. Where are the colonists? Where do they fit in? And, of course, the British are going to say, well, obviously you're with us. You're British. Are we British? Maybe we're the A word. Merkins. That's weird because if you say Merkins properly, there's no A there. It's just an apostrophe with Americans. But you know what I mean. Okay, great. So I'm just setting the table for a conflict we're about to look at tomorrow, which will be the conflict before the conflict, which would lead to the United States of America. Yes, dear.
So that chunk of Florida, it's just like empty.
This little dot right there?
No.
Like a green chunk.
Yeah, it's just like,
This thing right here?
yeah.
That's a Native American group that were dominant enough that no European entity challenged them. Right? That'll be an interesting war when the U.S. takes on this group, that Native American tribe, to take control of that. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions here? Yes, dear.
The top half is in French.
Of course, it's in French. How do you know that?
Because I took.
You speak French, okay. Because I speak French. Why do you think I have this outrageous accent? Okay, great, perfect. That's it. You're done. No more note taking. You put your notes away. So now you're thinking, well, now what? Class, we have a half hour. Now what are we going to do? Yay! So let me just throw out some possibilities here. I am now putting upon you the responsibility of writing or making a good faith attempt at writing your third paragraph, which would be the historian you disagree with for topic number 2, whatever that is for you, which is your second topic that you would like to address? Of course, your choices, I'm going to list all 3. Choice number 1 was Columbus. I suspect that most of you are going to choose Columbus. Pretty easy to kind of understand that Zinn couldn't stand him. Schweikert and Allen admired him. They have differences of opinion. So I would venture to guess most of you are going to write about Columbus. What's your second topic going to be? What's it going to be? And that's going to be different for all of you. Some of you are going to choose why the Europeans decided to colonize the Americas. Why'd they do that? And Zinn's basic conclusion, would anyone like to sum up Zinn's basic conclusion in one word? Zinn's conclusion. Why did the Europeans, why were they so interested in the right, wealth, right? Gold. And how about Schweikert and Allen? What was their basic conclusion? Religion, right? One's an admirable thing. We need to save their souls. One's a rather selfish thing, right? That's a possible second topic for you. If that's your second topic, choose the historical perspective you disagree with. And I want you to write a paragraph based on this, and it'll hit numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 minimally, possibly number 6 as well, right? Because you got to refute it. You have to first prove it and then refute it with another piece of historical evidence that trumps the first piece of historical evidence. The first piece of historical evidence is used by you to say, you know, this might appear to have some validity because look at this. But then you're going to say, however, other evidence suggests that this is an incomplete point of view or something like that. Okay, and then you hit a second piece of evidence, which you, by analysis, conclude that is a more valid piece of interpretation for you to conclude whatever it is that you are concluding, right? Or you could choose as your second topic, which culture was just superior? Anyone want to verbalize again here? What's Zinn's basic conclusion? Which culture was better? Natives, right? They had a superior culture, and what evidence is there to suggest that's true? And then obviously Schweikert and Allen would conclude it was the Europeans, right? Pick the historian you disagree with. Yes.
We read about how who we think oppressed the natives the most.
Between who? Who are the choices?
Like the king, queen, natives themselves, the whole thing we did in class.
No. Your choices are right here. The problem with that is that you're writing the wrong essay. This essay is about Zinn versus Schweikert and Allen. You understand? Do you understand, or are you just saying you understand? You understand. Okay. I'm just curious. Is there anyone in here who your two topics are actually not involving Columbus? You're choosing the other two. The European justification for colonization and native versus European culture. Is anyone writing that essay? Not a single one of them.
Aren't they like?
They're pretty similar, but I've separated them, so you don't have to do it that way.
But,
No,
like,
it's fine if you're not doing it that way. I don't care.
Both topics, can we use both topics for like why Columbus is bad to do? Like,
Definitely. Yeah, it's historical. Okay, great. So you could be working on that. Now, what's a fair due date for that? Today's Thursday. Monday? Okay. I hate assigning homework over weekends. No, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to assign it today because today is Thursday. If you're working on it on Sunday night, you know who assigned that as homework for the weekend? You did. You assigned you that homework. If you don't want to work on it on Sunday, do it today or tomorrow. Okay, so you could work on that. A couple other things you could be working on. You could be working on your Lexington thing. By the 26th, I want to be able to sit down with you and say, all right, what do you think? Who do you think fired first? And then ask you these questions. You should be able to answer these 6 kind of guiding questions by next Thursday. Yes, sir. Is there anyone else?
All this is of course on the website.
Everything's on the website. So that's another choice you could make. The third choice is that you have 2 Kias due tomorrow, and this time they're really due tomorrow. They're actually due tomorrow. Like the second the bell rings, I could say, all right, everyone, just wait a minute and go record your scores. I reserve the right to do that. I'm not saying I'll do that, but I can. I may. So there's your third option. So you got 3 little bowling pins and you're juggling. Okay? Any questions? Yeah, I'll put on a little Mozart and we'll rock and or roll.
Yeah. Was there a day that people could feed our drives? A second one?
We sort of did that yesterday, but if you want to do that again today, that'd be great. Yeah, we kind of did it yesterday.
Or not for tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Nothing.
I'm field trips, so I'll be gone, so I'll just.
Where are you going?